let it call. Come be a strong and youthful band. For God and country, freely pledge we all, led by the flag for which we stand. Blue for the mind that seeks the good and true, red for our prowess in the game, white for the glory of a heart that's pure, bright with an ever-shining flame. Alma Mater, we hail, God give the earth and great success. With truth and love we'll conquer all, for God our land and SFS. Alma Mater, we hail, God give the earth and great success. With truth and love we'll conquer all, for God our land and SFS. With truth and love let us united be, true to our glorious college name. High on the hill a beacon light is she, leading our children on to fame. March on to glory is a message bold, spread truth and love both far and wide. Loyal to the hands who reigns of guidance hold, teacher and pupil side by side. Alma Mater, we hail, God give the earth and great success. With truth and love we'll conquer all, for God our land and SFS. Alma Mater, we hail, God give the earth and great success. With truth and love we'll conquer all, for God our land and SFS.
A warm good morning to one and all. On behalf of the Management Principal, Dr. K.D. Thomas, and staff of St. Francis Xavier's College, Nagpur, I, Dr. Elisha Nagrale of BA second year, extend a warm welcome to one and all present on this forum to the 9th day of 3-week student development program. Education is a passport for the future, but tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. With this powerful weapon, we can acquire knowledge, skills, attitude, and build a value system to shape a sustainable future. We are honored to have with us the chief guest for today's program, Dr. Lionel D'Souza, who is going to talk on the topic Education for Sustainable Development. Dr. Lionel D'Souza is from Nagpur and now resides in the United States. He is a well-published, award-winning philanthropist, professor, and marketing professional engaged in global higher education, international business marketing, and management. He strives to make education and higher education possible worldwide for the undeserved and aspiring populations by his involvement in social and education projects in the USA, India, Canada, and Africa. Dr. Lionel D'Souza has received numerous students and institutional awards and nominations for excellence in teaching and research from leading USA and international universities. In July this year, he was the recipient of the Faculty Excellence Award from one of the largest international university systems in the world. The honor bestowed by the university after being nominated 11 times in succession for excellence, including in April or May 2020. Dr. Lionel D'Souza is a consultant to the pharmaceutical industry and is credited with international publications on management and marketing. He has written and developed master's and doctoral courses and circular for USA and UK universities and corporate higher education global communication for firms and institutions. He is currently also setting up a peer-reviewed international journals in leading institutions and universities in India, which he states is a sure way of developing outstanding talent and a scholar practitioners of future potential and eminence. After organizing an international conference in 2020 and participating in several international conferences, this year Dr. Lionel D'Souza is organizing the first of its kind international conference in collaboration with leading Indian and USA universities in November 2020, titled Significant Pandemic Implications of Science, Technology, IoT, Humanities, and Education. The international conference can be a wonderful exchange of leading edge knowledge which can contribute immensely to image and status of institution. It's indeed a great honor to have you with us today, sir. Before we proceed with the talk, I would like to request our participants to please post their queries in the Microsoft Teams Q&A and YouTube live chat. Now I request Dr. Lionel D'Souza, sir, to take over. Over to you, sir.
Uh, Thank you very much, and good morning. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical problems joining in, but distinguished principal, professors, and esteemed students, fellow students, because I consider myself a student at all times, so I'm one of you. And the topic is Education for Sustainable Development, known by the acronym ESD. So the first slide, for one thing, I don't want to be talk on the dark side of things and the doom and gloom. We've heard enough of that. But nevertheless, the first slide is that of a farmer, the first picture rather, and you can see the land appears to be kind of barren, shows signs of drought. Nevertheless, we are going to look at the positive side of things and also the opportunities with sustainable development. So next slide, please. So we are looking at a really 360 degree of education for sustainable development. One of the most important things is protection of life on the planet, on Mother Earth. And I'm quoting from the father of the nation, who has said, Earth has enough resources for everybody's needs, but not for anybody's greed. And that is Mahatma Gandhi. So what I aim to do here is to look at this problem from a complete holistic point of view. We want to be knowledgeable about the problems and issues and what skills can we learn, develop, and apply. And in the course of this, fortunately, it's not a discussion, but nevertheless, I can visualize us talking in some form and exchanging ideas, maybe now and later as well. So what are the important skills to know and apply? And in any sustainable development, there must be values and commitment, the resolve to make a difference to protect the planet. So some important terminology and expression is important. It is important to learn these terms, what they mean, how do they relate in the real world. And according to Kumari, in 2020, English is a means towards attaining sustainable development. In other words, if you understand these expressions, scientific terms, and can relate to the planet, then you're one step ahead in the game. And there are different roles that we all can play, whether we are students, whether we are professors, principals. We can either be a consultant, we can be an activist, we can advocate for these causes, and we can be champions of protecting the planet. So our voice must be heard. And here in this picture, you can possibly see maybe it's a college student advising a farmer. So that college student obviously has the skills, the knowledge, and I'm just kind of imagining that is one possibility, that the farmer is being advised, and that is something that I would urge all of us to do, to be knowledgeable and make a difference in our community. And that is the purpose of education for sustainable development. Next slide, please. So the agenda, we will explore sustainable development, look at global realities, what's happening out there, and get a comprehensive understanding of sustainable development. We will also look at what's important from a knowledge point of view, from a curriculum and educational perspective, what we need to learn, what scope and potential is to acquire and learn new things, and if there's any reorientation in what we know and what we need to learn. So how do we bridge that gap? Because the planet depends on us to keep it healthy for us, and it is important that we accept this challenge. There's a saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So you can see this boy collecting, I would call that trash or garbage. But what does it tell us? There are a couple of things. From what I can gather, this must be somewhere in Africa, but looks can be deceptive. Nevertheless, if you look at what he is doing, it's a young boy, and in many countries, at such a young age, that wouldn't be allowed. It would be exploitation of child labor. So that's one problem itself. Any sustainable development has to be ethically sound. It has to be in keeping with those kind of higher ideals and principles. The second thing is he may be collecting material that is hazardous, that can be dangerous. It can be dangerous to his skin and body. The third thing is, obviously, he's sent out there to earn an income for his family or for himself. So he has to be a breadwinner. But there are risks. So one may argue that he has to support a family, but at the same time, look at the risks. He's picking up things that could be toxic, harmful, and organizations, businesses have a responsibility just as individuals do. And that's what the acronym, the short form of the term CSR is. It means corporate social responsibility. So the responsibility is not just businesses, it is us to also protect our own kind, and first of all, not let such a situation develop where waste is out there unmanaged, unkempt, and that poses a risk to human life. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are a lot of problems, and in the last few months we've talked only about problems. But in this case, there are problems, yes, but there are also solutions which are within our reach, within our grasp. So what I have done is I have put a few pictures there to show you different situations on the dangers that planet Earth faces. And by default, we face, whether it's in Nagpur or whether it's in any part of India. So the first picture shows cracked earth, bare and barren land, and that is a sign of deforestation, soil erosion, possibly overgrazing, and that landscape turning into a desert. And so that's could be any of these reasons, deforestation and so on. And for that reason, it is important to preserve our habitat, to preserve nature. And that can be possible with skilled management of forests or different settings and scenarios. Okay, the next one is a is the map of Africa and Asia, and the idea is here that some of these countries in these continents, Asia and Africa, um, water pollution is a problem, raw sewage, untreated sewage is also a problem, and the runoff, what spills over from agricultural uh, treatments, from irrigation, could have pesticides and dangerous chemicals. So again, if it's managed well, we can reduce these problems. It's all in our hands. It's within our grasp. Drinking water is important. It should be pure and clean, and the goal is to keep it always that way. The third is the carbon dioxide, or the carbon footprint as they call it. So air pollution is hazardous, it's dangerous, and you know that can happen with indiscriminate use of industrial, laxity, or and different other such causes, emissions, from factories, from automobiles. So that carbon footprint is dangerous because it is often attributed to the warming of the earth. And as we know, as the earth warms, um, the effects are floods, the effects are droughts, and Nagpur used to be 45, used to be very hot earlier, but now the temperature, as you know, touches 47 and 48 quite routinely. So all these are contributing factors to changes in the environment, and some of these factors or these causes and implications are reversible. Again, it's within our grasp, within our reach. We can cut down on emissions, have more stricter controls over automobiles and vehicle emissions. And the picture number 4 clearly shows two different ends of the spectrum. One is the greenness that you see there, and when there's inadequate or overgrazing, as we saw, or other such causes, then the opposite effect is there. The land becomes barren and unfit for any agriculture. So it's overstraining of natural resources, and preservation of the quality of forests and the greenery around us is critical. Now, the last little picture shows the effect of all these of global warming and so on the ecosystem and biodiversity. We've shown a polar bear because with the melting of the glaciers in the North Pole and those regions, we face the danger of polar bears becoming extinct, and so some of the other predators. But that's even true in India. If we don't take care of our tiger reserves and wildlife, these cherished and prized animals will disappear. So again, the solution is very much within our grasp. Next slide, please. So the objectives of this discussion is to see how we can think critically, because the solutions, as we know, are there to some extent, and more importantly is how each one of us can play a role in sustainable development. And believe me, uh, whether you are a student, you're a professor, or you come from any walk of life, we all have a play and you know, have a responsibility to play in ensuring the planet's protection and in sustainable development. So the purpose of this presentation is to kind of explore these possibilities in not only in personal life but also in professional life. And when I say personal, it means you as a student, and you know, if we are in professional life, whether you're a teacher or anybody else, it's again, we must think critically. There are solutions, and this discussion is going to be only about the the possibilities, and we are going to focus on all the critical ways that we can contribute to protecting the environment and saving things. Next slide, please. So here's a map of Asia showing China, India, and so on. And you can see India is fast catching up on China. This is July 20th, 2020, 1.3 billion, growth 1.1%, increasing. They've shown some of the languages. Hindi, of course, dominates 43.6%, and so on. Religions are shown. Urbanization, people moving from cities, from rural areas to urban areas, represent 34.9% of the total population. And of course, due to COVID-19, some of that reverse migration has taken place as well, where people from cities have gone back to their hometowns. So unfortunate and very sad, but that's also reality. There's some de-urbanization. Literacy rate, there is potential, and I think we as college students have a responsibility to try and impart education, and we are kind of in a perfectly positioned status, or we find ourselves perfectly positioned to guide others. So as a college student, there's a lot to do. The literacy rate, 74.4%, is from 2018, but it shows that we still can improve literacy, and literacy is a sure way of contributing to sustainable development. Next slide, please. Again, some more geography. India is large, land and water. The stats are there, and we've got a variety of different climates, as we all know. The natural resources are an abundance of coal, and so on. Some of the other antimony, iron ore, manganese. We are blessed with these natural resources, and also large lands. I think one of the most important things which you see in the footnote is also we have an abundant amount of sunlight. And if you look at current trends, which we will discuss, sunlight can be a source of inexhaustible energy. So when we use natural resources that are renewable, we put less pressure and strain on the environment. So that is one of our goals, to understand these options, these resources, protect what we have, safeguard what we have, and use everything very carefully and judiciously. Next slide, please. So like any topic, there are different opinions and there are different schools of thought, as you may call them, different opinions, different ways of thinking. It's a constant debate, and debate is always good because if you know both sides of an argument, you are knowledgeable. So I would urge us all to look at every side of an argument. That's critical thinking. And in terms of global warming as well, there are those that are the prophets of gloom and doom, and say that we are destined to face dire consequences and so on. And some of those people who are those kind of um, naysayers also make capital and uh, you know also have very profitable ventures. So they profit from the fear that they kind of raise in others. An example is a former U.S. Vice President Al Gore, who has made millions on global warming and spreading the fear for whether it is true or not, but he has profited. So then there are different other ways, but most importantly, what we should focus on, and each of us has that responsibility, is to how can we bring forth solutions, because there are solutions. Whether it requires effective forest management. Now the picture that you see there is a forest fire, and again you see uh, the temperature gauge there showing high temperature and the redness denoting global warming. But here, a forest fire, let's say in the United States and California, there are forest fires. So one side of the argument says it's global warming, but the other side of the argument is that these forests have not been managed properly. Dead trees have not been removed, so they are an accident waiting to happen, and it's happening in many cases. So looking at these different points of view, whether it is politics, whether it is science, if you know both sides of an argument, you become the expert. And I would urge all of us to do that because we are educated, we are intelligent. Now, in terms of some of these factors changing the earth, global warming, and so on, what are the current thoughts out there? What is the debate? Some squarely blame humans. Humans are responsible. But then, if you go back in time, the earth has gone through a phase or period of cooling and heating. From, if you go back centuries, hundreds, thousands, millions of years, it's a cyclic process. So the second point of view is earth warming is a natural progression on the planet. Those that have a different point of view say that we are in the midst of that phase of warming, and it's not humans that are responsible. It's just naturally happening. So two different points of view. And then the third school of thought is that there's no climate change at all. 1% increase one year, but next year it kind of counterbalances. Heavy rains this year, last year it wasn't as heavy. So it all depends. So the three different points of view. And again, as mentioned, if we have the knowledge to understand what's happening and that knowledge is acquired. It can be acquired through reading, through the internet. Factual information from credible sources are available on the internet. So it gives us that position here that we can guide and advise other people. We can play an active role in protecting and safeguarding the environment. We become subject matter experts, so to speak. And it is not in a pompous or boastful kind of way. It is being that we can act responsibly in our own conduct, but also in advising other people. And that knowledge comes from understanding the issues from a 360-degree perspective. So, knowing both sides of an argument. It's like if you are in politics or outside of it, you know what each party stands for, the Congress, the BJP, and without taking sides, you can see the good in both of these parties. But you can also see the weaknesses. So that is the expert who can understand the issues, can articulate them, and is not swayed by rhetoric, by people saying things. You make informed decisions based on the knowledge that you have. So this slide is all about us acquiring knowledge and the importance of it to make informed kind of decisions and being in the role of advisors. Next slide, please. Indiscriminate use of fossil fuels and so on.
So whether it is human factors or whether it is natural factors, and the natural factors were if Earth is going through a phase of heating, a cyclic process which happens once in every 100, 400, 500 years, it all depends. And that is for the statisticians and the weather experts to figure out the frequency and the cause. But it surely is a combination of both factors. And the consequence is what you see in the picture here. If you look from right to left, right is the lush green, and that transformation to barren and desertification is on the left. So I think if any of these factors at play, or neglect, mismanagement, or any of those kind of factors at play, contribute to what you see on the left side of the picture. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, now here, let's look at the opportunities also. So there are opportunities even in emerging technologies. You've seen electric cars. So if we are knowledgeable, if we are entrepreneurial, you can maybe think of setting up like what somebody has done in Khan Market in New Delhi. They've got charging stations for electric cars. Similarly, with recycling, one can recycle plastics and so on, and possibly have an industry doing that. Or even you can be a consultant in waste management. So it doesn't matter what your profession is. It can either be, full-time entrepreneur. You can do it on the side, or you can just be a consultant advising governments. And it doesn't matter what your discipline is. You may be in computer science. You can take that angle of computer science and use it to think of sustainable development. So there are millions of different possibilities, and that again only comes with knowledge of sustainable development and also the commitment to protection of the environment. So conservation, protection, these are some of the buzzwords or key terms that we can think about and actually apply in real life, no matter what we intend to do now and in the future. Next slide, please. So if we are talking about energy, you can see that there is a remarkable trend, because it is known that petroleum and some of these resources are not perpetual, they are not inexhaustible. They are going to someday end, but there are sources of energy that can be limitless, that can be renewable, can be recycled, and continuously give us the energy and power without kind of hurting the planet. And those sources of energy are solar, sunlight, the wind, biofuels, whether it's made from algae or whatever else, and of course rain can be harnessed, and electricity generated, and many different applications. Here you can see a lady somewhere in Africa using a sunlight cooker, rice cooker, that harnesses the rays of the sun, and so in effect it's a cooker that is a solar cooker, and there are solar panels there, whether they are used on rooftops or in other applications. But again, it's an abundant resource of inexhaustible and renewable energy, so it's virtually limitless. Again, knowledge of these kind of trends, these kind of possibilities only expands our horizons and gives us kind of ways to be involved, either professionally, personally, for profit, non-profit. So all these kind of things that you get into these kind of fields, you will find yourself quite satisfied and pleased, and there are opportunities as well, just as limitless as the energy. Next slide, please. So everybody has talked possibly extensively on one of the most remarkable, dramatic phenomenon of the last 2,000, 3,000 years possibly now, because nobody has seen, even in the plagues, the 1500s and so on, were possibly not as devastating as COVID-19. But enough has been spoken about the negative things, the negative side of things, and we all have to be cautious, maintain safe distancing norms, and follow those guidelines. But as a side note, unfortunately for us, but fortunately for the planet has been in recovery mode to some extent, because of less travel, less use of fuel, and the smog in Delhi was the problem, and we saw clean air for some time. So the idea is that we don't want corona, but maybe we can improve our efficiencies in management of the climate, if you may, and also on waste management. So unfortunately, some good things come out of bad, and maybe preservation of the habitat is kind of seen with COVID-19 some recovery and recoup. But it also, in this period of lull and downtime, maybe it gives us opportunity to think at the different possibilities that we can not only safeguard ourselves from virus, but also protect ourselves and protect the environment. Next slide, please. So the solutions, we are always looking for solutions. We should always be looking, and that comes with awareness, with knowledge. The trend is go green. Biodiversity is a big trend, preservation and protection of endangered species. We've talked about alternative sources of energy, solar and so on. And resource optimization, natural resource. It means whatever we have, we should prevent waste management, whether it is more effective methods in irrigation, harnessing rainwater more effectively, and reducing the carbon footprint, which means that those dangerous and noxious noxious emissions, which are detrimental to human life, carcinogenic, also cause cancer. We can reduce the carbon footprint. Some years ago, there was hue and cry about the ozone, hole in the ozone layer, and that with responsible actions have kind of taken the back seat, because I think there's been some restoration of that hole filling up, and that ozone hole is no longer such a problem as it used to be 10 years or 15 years ago. So how can you play a role, or how can we play a role? It is sometimes possibly looking at healthier lifestyles, the traditional bicycle, walking. These are certainly ways to reduce the carbon footprint and also enhance your own health and well-being. Then in the picture below is a biobus again. Biofuels will reduce the dependence on oil from other countries, and will also make it more efficient and possibly a renewable source of energy. So definitely we can play a role. There are solutions. They need to be carefully thought through and acted upon, implemented. Next slide, please. So we all have a role to play, whether you volunteer or take a professional position. It all depends on what we want to do. The Nag River restoration project is on, so perhaps a team from SFS College can go and advise them. First of all, learn and advise them. You can work with NARI or Safari, whatever their name is right now. You can partner and volunteer with the NMC, Nagpur Municipal Corporation. So there are different possibilities, different ends of the spectrum. One of the things that is also safeguarding, means safeguarding the environment, means means we should also play an active part to protect domestic and wild animals. So prevention of cruelty to animals, because animals belong to the planet and have a right to live on the planet just as you and me. Promote recycling. The 3 R's of sustainability is reduce, recycle, and reuse. So, according to Jetley and Singh, 2019, that is in decline. And I have used references that are very current, very recent. Tried to stay within the last 3 years to give you some of the most contemporary points of view and talk of some of the most pressing issues. So we can protect the environment. Education is crucial, and that education can be learned and acquired. We can have forums, we can have collaborative discussions, and what it does, it helps to build student character as cited by Prabhavan in 2020 and other researchers. So there in the picture on the right you see piled up uncollected trash, which can be a hazard to health. And you can see an abundance of plastics. So banning plastics and some of those kind of items also present dangers to wildlife, to marine life, because fish and other such creatures can get trapped. So responsible actions are a part of sustainable development and protecting the environment. A big thing is try and get out there and volunteer. Form groups, discuss that in the college in your spare time, write a paper, and I'd be happy to join with you, and we can get it published. We can, kind of engage in these kind of discussions. Next slide, please. I wanted to look at what views are out there, very recent views from the academic community. So I tried to look at some peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed means those are quality articles in journals that are reviewed by experts. So they have suggested, and I have listed these, reduce adverse and unsustainable production and consumption. What you don't need, no need to produce. What you don't consume should be carefully managed. So do all this very systematically. The next point, to protect degradation of the environment. That means harmful effects on the environment. And resource depletion means indiscriminate use of resources, wasteful, negligent, and so on. Build higher levels of cognitive and critical thinking. Now, these are not my views, these are the views of experts from academic circles in India. Incorporate green in education. Teach people about green concepts. Industry, government, local communities. That is by Chakrabarti in 2018. Try and facilitate new approaches to teaching. Pedagogy is teaching.
develop cross-boundary knowledge of students. Again, a quote from the last few years. Importantly, promote scholar exchange. In this case, cultural exchange between Australia and India. So if you look at the slide, at the picture there, it shows that little placard of concept. So my point of view is concepts are fine, but we should translate concepts to realistic action where we can volunteer, we can advise, but we first need to know some of these things, and we have the education, we have the training, we are in college, so we are at a higher level than possibly the average person, and we are in a better position to understand and play a productive role in society. Next slide, please. So the future in India is both during this pandemic, which we hope will get over very, very soon. A new vaccine seems to be on the horizon. So keep your spirits high. And like I say, the current gloom and doom is just a passing phase. There will be many opportunities. The opportunities will be there. They will be boundless. There will be many. And we can emerge stronger with knowledge. And how do we do that? We should invest, just like you would invest in real estate, invest in knowledge, because knowledge is something that cannot be taken away from you, and knowledge appreciates, it increases in value. The more knowledge you have, whether it is in the form of degrees or it is personally acquired knowledge through reading and research, it is your knowledge. It is priceless. So acquire it, discuss, debate, read, learn. I quoted Gandhi. Now I'm also quoting another eminent person, Winston Churchill, a former British Prime Minister during World War II. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, while the optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. So the difficulty is climate change, global warming. See the opportunity, whether you can be a consultant, an advisor. And this world of knowledge has never been more available, never been more accessible, because the internet is a marvel. It is something unimaginable. Next slide, please. So the future planet is in everyone's hands. We can all play a part. Use your knowledge from one of the best institutions in central India to make a meaningful difference. You are what the institution is. It is your knowledge that you project in the world and in society in Nagpur, that is a reflection of the college or the university, and you can do it. So thank you, but let me go on to another slide before I end this presentation. Next slide, please. So some of the statistics and trends from very recently. Population I've already talked about. The internet, the use of the internet is increasing exponentially. It means it is increasing by leaps and bounds. And that's a good thing, because it means that more people are getting knowledgeable, educated, informed, and getting smarter. The statistics on the extreme right shows that the ages between 15 to, let's say, 54 are big chunks of the population. And I think can make a meaningful difference to benefit the earth. English is a unifying language. Whether you speak Hindi or Marathi or any other language, also try and learn the terminology in English so that you can explain it to villagers in Narkhed, Umred, Ramtek, wherever these places may be. You can go out there and volunteer, and you can see that the population is equally divided between male and female. So there are opportunities in education for both genders to go out and do the good work. Next slide, please. So here are the references. We always provide references when we do presentations, and we use what's known as the American Psychological Association format of references. It is here that we use the last name first, then the initials, and so on. So I just wanted to show you that how references are done in an academic paper. So on that note, I would like to express my sincere thanks for Principal Dr. Thomas, and for the wonderful guidance and assistance of Dilip, and distinguished professors and esteemed students and fellow students. However, on that good note, and with me expressing my thanks, I also want to share another little brief presentation that we have done recently. So if Dilip can upload that next, please. Okay, so
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful and impact talk on education for sustainable development. We will incorporate all the essential and vital points that you have mentioned in your talk, and it will definitely help us to grow and better ourselves in our endeavors. It is my privilege to propose the vote of thanks. I would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Lionel D'Souza, for making an excellent presentation and making the student development program a very meaningful and interesting. Thank you once again, sir. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our principal, Dr. Katie Thomas, sir, for arranging this program for us and giving us the golden opportunity to learn. Thank you, sir. I also thank all my professors, the organizing committee of the Student Development Program, for working round the clock and contributing amply for the success of the program. I would also like to thank the students for attending the program, and I request all the participants to fill and submit the feedback form. With this, we have finished our first segment of today's program. Thank you very much. Today, we are celebrating the Vachan Prerna Diwas. To know more about this, I request Dr. Ashwini Parikar ma'am to take over the second segment of today's program. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Elisha. Good afternoon, all. We are in the second segment of today's program, that is Vachan Prerna Diwas. डॉक्टर एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम की जयंती वाचन प्रेरणा दिवस के रूप में मनाई जाती है। पिछले कई वर्षों से इस दिन हमने बुक डिस्प्ले, बुक एग्जीबिशन, बुक रिव्यू कंपटीशन कॉलेज में ऑर्गेनाइज की है। आज के इस एरा में जहाँ पे हम ऑनलाइन ही एक दूसरे से कनेक्ट हो सकते हैं, तो आज का ये जो वाचन प्रेरणा दिवस का प्रोग्राम है, इसमें दो विद्यार्थिनी, हमारे यहाँ की दो छात्राएं, देवश्री इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ रीडिंग हैबिट के बारे में बताएंगी, और मारिया एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम यूथ आयकॉन, इसके बारे में बोलने जा रही है। विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, वाचनाचे महत्त्व आणि मराठी भाषा या विषयावर बोलण्यासाठी आज महाराष्ट्रातील एक प्रसिद्ध आणि परिचित व्यक्तिमत्व दीपाली केळकर इथे आपल्यासोबत उपस्थित आहेत. त्यांचा परिचय थोडक्यात करून देते. मुंबई दूरदर्शनच्या सह्याद्री वाहिनीवर 2000 सालापासून वृत्तनिवेदिका म्हणून त्या कार्यरत आहेत. 9:30च्या बातम्यात तसंच सभामंचावर विविध क्षेत्रातील मान्यवरांच्या मुलाखती त्यांनी घेतल्या. उदाहरणार्थ मंगेश पाडगावकर, पंडित यशवंत देव, अशोक पत्की, अशोक सराफ, नरेंद्र जाधव, अरुणा ढेरे, प्रतिभा रानडे, संपदा जोगळेकर अशा प्रसिद्ध व्यक्तिमत्वांच्या मुलाखती त्यांनी घेतलेल्या आहेत. शेकडो सामाजिक, साहित्यिक, सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रमाचं निवेदन आणि सूत्रसंचालन त्यांनी केलेलं आहे. उदाहरणार्थ कोकण मराठी साहित्य परिषदेचं साहित्य संमेलन, बृहन महाराष्ट्र मंडळाचं वार्षिक अधिवेशन, उदयदादा राजाराम लाड फाउंडेशनचे कार्यक्रम, अखिल भारतीय नाट्य परिषदेचे कार्यक्रम, जागतिक मराठी अकादमीचे कार्यक्रम इत्यादी. त्यांच्या एकटीच्या संवादात्मक कार्यक्रमांचे 450च्या वर प्रयोग मुंबई, महाराष्ट्र आणि महाराष्ट्राबाहेर परदेशातही झाले आहेत. दैनिक लोकमतचा सखी सन्मान पुरस्कार निवेदन क्षेत्रातील कामासाठी त्यांना मिळाला आहे. निवेदन, वृत्तनिवेदन, एकल संवादात्मक कार्यक्रम या क्षेत्रातील कामासाठी अखिल भारतीय मराठी नाट्य परिषद बोरिवली शाखेतर्फे स्वराभिनय पुरस्कार देखील त्यांना मिळाला आहे. रोटरी क्लब ऑफ बदलापूर इंडस्ट्रियल एरियातर्फे व्यावसायिक सेवा पुरस्कार त्यांना मिळाला आहे. मॉडेल कोऑर्डिनेटर म्हणून 10 वर्ष स्वतंत्र व्यवसाय केला असून काही जाहिरातींसाठी त्यांनी मॉडेलिंग सुद्धा केलेलं आहे. विविध वर्तमानपत्र तसंच मासिक आणि साप्ताहिकात त्यांचं लेखन देखील सुरू आहे. तसं व्यासंगी आणि विविध याच्यामध्ये काम केलेलं व्यक्तिमत्व आज विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो तुमच्यासाठी उपलब्ध आहे. त्या तुमच्यासाठी वेळात वेळ काढून आज इथे आलेले आहेत. दीपाली मॅडम, SFS महाविद्यालय नागपूर तर्फे मी तुमचं हार्दिक स्वागत करते आणि तुम्ही आमच्या विद्यार्थ्यांना मार्गदर्शन करावं अशी तुम्हाला विनंती करते.
हॅलो
हॅलो. हां,
हॅलो, आवाज येतोय ना?
हो येतोय.
हां, सुरुवात करू का?
हो.
नमस्कार सगळ्यांना. वाचन प्रेरणा दिवसाच्या अगदी मनापासून शुभेच्छा देते आणि SFS कॉलेजचे सर्व प्राध्यापक तसंच प्राचार्य तसंच सर्व पदाधिकारी, ग्रंथपाल अश्विनी पराडकर मॅडम आणि सगळ्यांचे, सर्व संबंधितांचे अगदी मनापासून आभार मानते. आज वाचन प्रेरणा दिवसाच्या निमित्ताने मला माझं मनोगत व्यक्त करण्याची संधी दिली त्यासाठी सर्वांचे अगदी मनपूर्वक आभार. आणि जिने माझं नाव सुचवलं ती माझी मैत्रीण लयनल जोगळेकर, हिचा सुद्धा इथे आवर्जून उल्लेख करते, तिचे सुद्धा आभार मानते. आज माजी राष्ट्रपती डॉक्टर APJ अब्दुल कलाम यांची जयंती. आपण वाचन प्रेरणा दिवस डॉक्टर APJ अब्दुल कलाम यांची एक आठवण इथे सुरुवातीला मला आवर्जून सांगावी. डॉक्टर APJ अब्दुल कलाम जेव्हा राष्ट्रपती झाले तेव्हा एका पत्रकारांनी त्यांना विचारलं की आता ह्या क्षणाला तुमच्या मनात नेमक्या काय भावना आहेत, तुम्हाला नेमकं काय वाटतंय? तेव्हा डॉक्टर कलामांनी इतकं छान उत्तर दिलं. त्यांनी असं सांगितलं की आता या क्षणाला मला माझ्या शाळेतल्या त्या शिक्षकांची आठवण होतीये ज्यांनी मला हाताला धरून अक्षर गिरवायला शिकवलं. म्हणजे एवढ्या अत्युच्च पदावर पोहोचल्यानंतर सुद्धा, राष्ट्रपती पदावर पोहोचल्यानंतर सुद्धा डॉक्टर कलाम आपल्या शाळेतल्या शिक्षकांना विसरले नाहीत. हे खूप महत्वाचं. थोडक्यात काय, आपण आपल्या शिक्षकांना, प्राध्यापकांना, गुरूंना विसरता कामा नये. त्यांच्याबद्दल कृतज्ञता ही आपल्या मनामध्ये कायम असायलाच हवी. ग्रंथ, पुस्तकं हे सुद्धा आपले गुरु असतात. कविवर्य मंगेश पाडगावकरांनी इतकं छान लिहिलंय. त्यांनी असं म्हटलंय, वाचन आहे प्रवास सुंदर, वाचन आहे प्रवास सुंदर, नव्या नव्या ज्ञानाचा, इतिहासाचा, साहित्याचा आणि कविज्ञानाचा, नव्या जगाचे, नव्या युगाचे प्रकाश गाणे गाती. ग्रंथ आमचे साथी, ग्रंथ आमच्या हाती, ग्रंथ उजळती अज्ञानाच्या अंधाराच्या राती. असं सुंदर वर्णन कविवर्य मंगेश पाडगावकरांनी केलंय. परमेश्वराने आपल्याला अनेक देणग्या दिल्या आहेत. त्यापैकी एक महत्वाची देणगी, एक अद्भुत गोष्ट परमेश्वराने आपल्याला दिली आहे आणि ती म्हणजे मन. मन आपल्याला परमेश्वराने दिलंय. हे मन गंजू नये याची खबरदारी, याची काळजी मात्र आपल्यालाच घ्यायची असते. या मनाची मशागत आपण कशी करू शकतो? तर या मनाची मशागत आपण पुस्तकांच्या, ग्रंथांच्या साहाय्याने नक्कीच करू शकतो. अगदी कमी शिकलेला माणूस सुद्धा पुस्तकांच्या साहाय्यानं, ग्रंथांच्या साहाय्यानं ज्ञान मिळवू शकतो. आता एक गंमत आहे पहा, गुगलच्या साहाय्यानं आपण ज्ञान नाही मिळवू शकत. गुगलच्या साहाय्यानं आपण फक्त माहितीचं संकलन करू शकतो, माहिती मिळवू शकतो. पण पुस्तकांच्या साहाय्यानं, ग्रंथांच्या साहाय्यानं आपण ज्ञान मिळवू शकतो. माहिती आणि ज्ञान ह्याच्यामध्ये असा फरक आहे. आता ज्ञानाचे सुद्धा जगातल्या सगळ्या ज्ञानाचे 5 प्रकार आहेत. पहिला प्रकार म्हणजे कला. माणूस ज्याची निर्मिती करतो ना, ती कला. पहिला प्रकार कला. दुसरा प्रकार म्हणजे विज्ञान. माणूस ज्याचं संशोधन करतो ते विज्ञान. तत्वज्ञान, माणूस ज्याचं चिंतन करतो ते तत्वज्ञान. इतिहास, जे होऊन गेलं तो इतिहास. आणि वाङ्मय, माणसाला जे जाणवतं ते जो शब्दात प्रकट करतो तेव्हा ते होतं वाङ्मय. तर ज्ञानाचे हे 5 प्रकार आहेत आणि आपली सगळी पुस्तकं, आपले सगळे ग्रंथ हे या 5 प्रकारामधले आहेत, या पंचक्रोशीतले आहेत असं आपण म्हणू शकतो. आता समर्थ रामदासांनी म्हटलेलंच आहे की दिसा माझी काहीतरी ते लिहावे, दिसा माझी थोडे तरी ते लिहावे, प्रसंगी अखंडित वाचित जावे. आता अखंडित वाचित जावे हे जसं महत्वाचं आहे, तसंच अखंडित वेचित जावे. वाचणं आणि वेचणं हे दोन्ही खूप महत्वाचं आहे. म्हणजे आपल्याकडे शांता शेळकेंना वेचण्याची खूप सवय होती आणि त्या छान त्याचं आपल्या वहीमध्ये छान नोंद करून ठेवत असत. साहित्यिक रवींद्र पिंगे यांना सुद्धा असं वेचण्याची सवय होती. त्याचप्रमाणे अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी माजी पंतप्रधान यांना सुद्धा वाचनाची आणि वेचून ठेवण्याची सवय होती, छंद होता. तसंच पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू, यशवंतराव चव्हाण यांना सुद्धा वाचनाची आवड होती. शेवटपर्यंत त्यांनी आपला वाचनाचा छंद जोपासला. न्यायमूर्ती रानडे यांचा पुस्तक संग्रह सुद्धा अतिशय मोठा होता, व्यापक होता. तसंच डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर यांच्यासाठी तर पुस्तकं म्हणजे अन्न, ग्रंथ म्हणजे अन्न, ग्रंथ म्हणजे पक्वान्न. त्यांचा संग्रहही मोठा होता. लोकमान्य टिळक यांनी तर असं म्हटलंय की मी नरकात गेलो, नरकात सुद्धा मी पुस्तकांचं स्वागत करीन, कारण नरकात सुद्धा मी पुस्तकांच्या साहाय्यानं स्वर्ग निर्माण करेन, असं लोकमान्य टिळक यांनी म्हटलेलं आहे. तर पाश्चात्य साहित्यिक मिल्टन यांनी असं म्हटलंय की जेव्हा मी जुनं पुस्तक वाचतो ना, तेव्हा मला एखादा जुना मित्र भेटल्याचा आनंद होतो. आणि जेव्हा मी नवीन पुस्तक वाचतो तेव्हा एखादा नवीन मित्र मला भेटला असं मला वाटतं, नवीन मित्राची भेट झाली, ओळख झाली असं मला वाटतं. तर अनेक मान्यवरांनी पुस्तकांचं आणि वाचनाचं महत्त्व सांगितलेलं आहे. कवी इंद्रजित भालेराव यांची अतिशय सुंदर कविता आहे. त्यातल्या काही ओळी फक्त इथे सांगते, उद्धृत करते. त्यांनी असं म्हटलंय, मी मगाशी म्हटल्याप्रमाणे ग्रंथ हे गुरु आहेत. ग्रंथ माझे गुरु माय बाप, ग्रंथ माझे गुरु माय बाप, निवविती ताप हृदयाचे. ग्रंथाने ठेवलेली संस्कृती जिवंत, म्हणूनच ग्रंथ नित्य घ्यावे. ग्रंथ खरीदावे, उरी घ्यावे, भेट द्यावे वेळोवेळी. ग्रंथ हे कडवं खूप महत्वाचं आहे. ग्रंथ खरीदावे, उरी घ्यावे, भेट द्यावे वेळोवेळी. आपण हॉटेलमध्ये जातो आणि सहज 500-1000 रुपये खर्च करतो. आपल्या कपड्यांवर आपण सहज 500-1000-2000 रुपये खर्च करतो, पण पुस्तकांवर आपण तितकासा खर्च करत नाही. तेव्हा ग्रंथ खरीदावे, उरी घ्यावे, भेट द्यावे वेळोवेळी. घरात असावे ग्रंथांचे कपाट. किती सुंदर लिहिलंय पहा इंद्रजित भालेराव यांनी. त्यांनी असं म्हटलंय की घरात असावे ग्रंथांचे कपाट, देवा जसा पाट देव्हाऱ्यात. ग्रंथ ज्याचा जीव, ज्याचा श्वास, त्याच्या आसपास देवर आहे. असं इंद्रजित भालेरावांची अतिशय सुंदर अशी ही कविता आहे. आता ग्रंथ हे उत्तम गुरु असतात बरं का. म्हणजे ते आपल्याला कधीही रागवत नाहीत, ते आपल्याला कधीही चिडत नाहीत. आयुष्याच्या प्रत्येक टप्प्यावर, बाल्यावस्थेत, तारुण्यावस्थेत, प्रौढावस्थेत, वृद्धावस्थेत, प्रत्येक टप्प्यावर हे ग्रंथ आपल्याला साथ करतात. आणि सगळ्या प्रहरांमध्ये, म्हणजे दिवस रात्र सगळ्या प्रहरांमध्ये ते आपल्या बरोबर असतात. अगदी प्रवासात सुद्धा या गुरुला आपण आपल्या बरोबर ठेवू शकतो. आणखीन एक महत्वाचं म्हणजे हे गुरु आपल्याला तुच्छ लेखत नाहीत, आपल्या चुका दाखवत नाहीत, आपल्या अज्ञानाची आपल्याला जाणीव करून देत नाहीत, तर आपल्याकडे जे आहे ते भरभरून देतात. तर हे ग्रंथ हे आपले गुरु आहेत. आपल्या मराठी भाषेबद्दल बोलायचं झालं तर आपली मराठी भाषा ही अतिशय समृद्ध आहे. मी शब्दांच्या गावाजावी असा 2 तासाचा कार्यक्रम करते. थोडक्यात फक्त मराठी भाषेची समृद्धी सांगते आणि शेवटच्या टप्प्याकडे येते. आपल्याकडे एकच शब्द असतो, पण तो किती वेगवेगळ्या भूमिकेमध्ये वावरतो. म्हणजे माणूस जसा वेगवेगळ्या भूमिकेत वावरतो ना, तसा शब्द सुद्धा वेगवेगळ्या भूमिकेत वावरतो. जसं राम हा साधा 2 अक्षरी शब्द आपण घेतला तर आपण राम राम पाहुणं म्हणतो, म्हणजे नमस्कार करताना राम राम पाहुणं असं म्हणतो, किंवा निधन झाल्यानंतर राम म्हटलं असं म्हणतो. कशात काही अर्थ उरला नाही असं म्हणताना कशात काही राम उरला नाही असं म्हणतो. सकाळच्या वेळेला राम प्रहर म्हणतो. रामफळ नावाचं एक फळ असतं. 2 भाऊ जर गुण्या गोविंदाला नांदत असतील तर आपण राम लक्ष्मणाची जोडी असं म्हणतो. औषध हटकून गुण देणारं असेल तर त्याला रामबाण औषध असं म्हणतो. सुतराम शक्यता नाही असं म्हणतो. आयाराम म्हणतो, गयाराम म्हणतो. या रामावर आपला इतका भरोसा आहे की राम भरोसे हिंदू हॉटेल सुद्धा असतं. दादरच्या एक कवयित्री आहेत सुमनताई फडके, त्यांनी इतकं छान लिहिलंय. त्यांनी असं म्हटलंय की 10 तोंडाच्या सावलीला रावण मनात घाबरायचा, 10 तोंडाच्या सावलीला रावण मनात घाबरायचा, राम राम मंत्र मनात मात्र म्हणायचा. तर असा हा 2 अक्षरी राम हा शब्द आपण किती वेगवेगळ्या भूमिकेमध्ये वावरतो. किंवा आपण शब्द घेतला, क्रियापद घेतलं, समजा खाणे. खाणे हे क्रियापद, 2 अक्षरी क्रियापद, ते पण किती वेगवेगळ्या भूमिकेत वावरतं. आपण काय काय खातो? पावभाजी खातो, मार खातो, शिव्या खातो, वेळ खातो, पैसे खातो, डोकं खातो. लहान मुलं बोलताना अक्षरं खातात, शब्द खातात. तर आपल्याकडे शब्द आणि क्रियापद ही वेगवेगळ्या भूमिकेत वावरतात. आपल्याकडे समुच्चारी शब्द पण खूप आहेत, म्हणजे उच्चार एक पण अर्थ वेगळा आणि लिंग सुद्धा वेगळं. एक 2च उदाहरण देते. माझ्या गळ्यात साधी काळी पोत आहे, माझ्या गळ्यात साधी काळी पोत आहे आणि आजोबा धोतराचा पोत पाहून घेतात. ती पोत आणि तो पोत, उच्चार एक, अर्थ वेगळा आणि लिंग सुद्धा वेगळं. माणसाला वीट तयार करण्याचं यंत्र सापडलं आणि रोज पोळी भाजी खाऊन मला अगदी वीट आलाय. ती वीट आणि तो वीट. ते समुच्चारी शब्द सुद्धा आपल्याकडे खूप आहेत. आपल्याकडे संदर्भ बदलला की शब्द बदलतो. म्हणजे मी जर केसामध्ये फुलं माळली आणि ती सुकली तर त्याचा कचरा होतो, पण देवाला वाहिलेली फुलं वाहिली आणि ती सुकली की त्याचं निर्माल्य होतं. आपण पितो ते दूध असतं, देवापुढे ठेवल्यानंतर लगेच त्याचं तीर्थ होतं. तर संदर्भ बदलला की आपल्याकडे शब्द बदलतो. तर आपली भाषा ही खरंच खूप समृद्ध आहे आणि मराठी साहित्याचं एक दालन म्हणजे लोकसाहित्य हे सुद्धा श्रीमंत आहे, समृद्ध आहे, वैभवशाली आहे. हे लोकसाहित्य सुद्धा आपण जतन करायला हवं, सांभाळायला हवं आणि त्यावरच त्रिधन नावाचा एक कार्यक्रम करते. एक उखाणा फक्त घेते आणि शेवटच्या टप्प्याकडे वळते. बघा आपली भाषा किती समृद्ध आहे. चांदीचं घंगाळ आंघोळीला, जरीकाठी धोतर नेसायला, चंदनाचा पाट बसायला, केशरी गंध लावायला, भागवत वाचायला, दिल्लीचा आरसा पाहायला, समई मोराची, चांदीचे गडवे पेले, आत गंगा भागीरथीचं पाणी, राजगिरी अत्तर, सुगंधी वासाचं तेल, उदबत्त्यांची झाडं, रांगोळी पुढं, पाची पक्वान्नांचं भोजन जेवायला, वर तऱ्हेतऱ्हेच्या कोशिंबिरी, सतरंजीची शोभा, पान पिकलं पुण्याचं, चुना लोणावळ्याचा, कादगोळ्या धारच्या, वेलदोडे इंदूरचे, जायफळ नगराचे, जायपत्री मद्रासची, चिकन सुपारी सोलापूरची, एवढं सामान बिड्याचं, ताटबिलवराचं, घुंगराचा अडकित्ता बागणीचा, उशलकिंग कापाच्या, हांड्या झुमरांचा लखलखाट, समया लावल्या 360 आणि रावांच्या जीवासाठी मिळू केला थाट. तर इतकी आपली मराठी भाषा ही समृद्ध आहे. इथे खरं तर नागपूरची संत्रा बर्फी असं सुद्धा खरं तर इथे म्हणायला हवं होतं, हरकत नाही. तर थोडक्यात काय, तर आपली भाषा समृद्ध आहे, ती आपण जतन करायला हवी, सांभाळायला हवी. मराठी भाषेमध्ये वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारचं साहित्य आहे. मग त्याच्यामध्ये प्रवास वर्णन आहे, संत साहित्य आहे, आत्मचरित्र आहे, भाषा विषयक, भाषाशास्त्र विषयक पुस्तकं आहेत, लोकसाहित्य आहे. ते विविध विषयांवरची पुस्तकं आपण नक्की वाचायला हवेत. अनंत भावे यांच्या कवितेने एका कार्यक्रमाचा समारोप मी करणार आहे. खूप सुंदर कविता आहे, अगदी छोटीशी आहे. अनंत भावे यांनी इतकं छान लिहिलंय. त्यांनी असं म्हटलंय की हे नच पुस्तक, हे पुस्तक नाहीये फक्त, हे नच पुस्तक ही तर खिडकी. शब्द पहा किती छान आहेत. हे नच पुस्तक ही तर खिडकी जगभवतीचे बघण्यासाठी. हे नच पुस्तक ही तर दुर्बीण, हे नच पुस्तक ही तर दुर्बीण अदृष्टाला फिरण्यासाठी. हे नच पुस्तक हा परवाना, हे नच पुस्तक हा परवाना विश्वनागरिक होण्यासाठी. आणि हे नच पुस्तक हे केवळ पुस्तक नाही, हे नच पुस्तक हा तर आरसा स्वतःलाच ओळखण्यासाठी. हे नच पुस्तक हा तर आरसा स्वतःलाच ओळखण्यासाठी. तेव्हा मराठी भाषेवर प्रेम करा, मराठी गाण्यांवर, मराठी साहित्यावर, मराठी पुस्तकांवर प्रेम करा, जगण्यावर प्रेम करा, असं म्हणत आता इथेच थांबते. आणि पुन्हा एकदा SFS कॉलेजचे प्राचार्य, पदाधिकारी, प्राध्यापक आणि अश्विनी मॅडम आणि सर्व संबंधितांचे अगदी मनापासून आभार मानते. पुन्हा पुढच्या टप्प्यावर नक्की भेटूया, शब्दांच्या वाटेवर नक्की भेटूया. धन्यवाद.
मराठी भाषेचं आणि वाचनाच्या महत्त्वाचं तुम्ही इतकं सुंदर विवेचन केलं, त्याबद्दल तुमचं मनपूर्वक आभार मॅम. Good morning, one and all. I am Devasha Devanji, student of BSc Final, and today on this celebrations of Vachan Prerna Diwas, I am going to talk about importance of reading habit. Reading is one of the important cognitive functions that humans possess. Reading is the bridge from imprudence to wisdom, from being concrete to being imaginative, from misery to hope, from reality to fantasy, and back to reality. Reading is basically relaying the words into our brain, making them into thoughts, thoughts which give rise to actions, and actions which becomes our habit. To inculcate this habit, I think we have been advised since the time we can remember, but sadly the things we cage the reading into the bounds of academic needs. But I am here to talk about the importance of this habit beyond our academic needs. So firstly, in a world where we have to survive, we have to strive for our livelihood, for survival, one of the prime requirements for any job, for any thing, is the power of communication skills. And this power can certainly be developed and grown, nurtured with the help of reading. We can add different words, different sentences, constructions in our brain, and that makes our communication skills, and surely we succeed in the path of our careers. Secondly, I would talk about the stress, which has become such a natural feeling in today's world. Stress is very, very normal like that. Everybody has stress. The world is very demanding and very competitive. And in times like these, we need an escape. And reading can be one of the escape, one of the relaxing factors. We can get lost in a fictional world where our trouble seems far-fetched, our problems, and where reality doesn't trouble us, trouble our mind. And reading offers the relaxation that we. Thirdly, I would emphasize about whatever the social generation of people who are into much virtual world. We are crying behind the screens in which we put up the smiling emoticons. We are a world where virtuality is hiding a reality. And in this chaos, I think reading can be our peace. Reading can be essence of human emotions. According to me, reading merely isn't a habit. It should be a choice that everybody should make for their holistic development. At the end of my talk, I would like to quote Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. You cannot change your future, but you can change your habits. And surely your habits will change your future. So acclimatize yourselves with 20 minutes per day, and in 21 days, it becomes a habit. And this habit will be something that you will cherish for life. Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Ms. Maria Khan, who is going to talk further about Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Devashri. Good morning, everyone. I am Maria Fatima Khan, student of BSc final year. Today I am here to deliver a speech on the life of our beloved missile man, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, since today is his birthday. So, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the name itself depicts the respect and honor for the great scientist of our nation. He is one of the greatest of our nation, scientists of our nation. He is one of the greatest inspiration for the young generation. Dr. Avyul Pakir Zainulabdin Abdul Kalam was born on 15th October 1931. He was an Indian aerospace scientist and politician who served as 11th President of India from 2002 to 2007. He was born and raised in Rameshwaram and studied physics and aerospace engineering in Madras Institute of Technology. After graduating from Madras Institute of Technology in 1960, Kalam joined the Aeronautical Development Establishment of the Defense Research and Development Organization as a scientist. After becoming a member of Defense Research and Development Service, he started his career by designing a small hovercraft, but remained unconvinced by his choice of job at DRDO. Kalam was transferred to Indian Space Research Organization ISRO, where he was the project director in India's first satellite launch vehicle, SLV-3, which successfully deployed the Rohini satellite in near-Earth orbit in July 1980. Between the 1970s and 1990s, Kalam made an effort to develop the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle (PSLV) and SLV-3 projects, both of which proved to be great success. His research and educational leadership brought him great laurels and prestige in the 1980s, which prompted the government to initiate an advanced missile program under his leadership. Kalam was appointed as the chief executive for the mission named Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, IGMP. Kalam played a major part in developing many missiles under this mission, including Agni missile, Prithvi missile, etc. Kalam served as 11th President of India, succeeding K.R. Narayanan. He won 2002 presidential election with an electoral votes of 9,22,884. His term lasted from 25th July 2002 to 25th July 2007. After leaving the office, Kalam became a visiting professor at the Indian Institute of Management Shillong, the Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad, and the Indian Institute of Management Indore, an honorary fellow of Indian Institute of Science Bangalore, Chancellor of Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology Thiruvananthapuram, Professor of Aerospace Engineering at Anna University, and as an adjunct at many other academic and research institutes across India. We lost one of the greatest scientists and former president in an unfortunate event. While he was delivering a lecture at Indian Institute of Management Shillong, the famous missile man collapsed and died from an apparent cardiac arrest on 25th July 2015. His complete life is an inspiration for us. Despite of being unfortunate to achieve his dream of being a fighter pilot, he did wonders in the field of science and technology and devoted his entire life in building strong and talented young India. He even devoted his last breath inspiring the youth. He was actually the youth icon in true sense. He was an actual hero. This was the life of our beloved missile man. Thank you so much. Now I would hand over to Ms. Amandeep to propose the vote of thanks. Thank you.
On behalf of St. Francis de Sales College, I, Amandeep Kaur of BA first year, extend a heartfelt thank you to the chief guest of our today's program, Mrs. Deepali Kelkar Madam, for enlightening us with her thoughts on Vachan Prerna Diwas, and also for inspiring us with the importance of reading books of Marathi literature and how one can enhance one's knowledge on Marathi Granth Sampada and Marathi Bhasha. Your talk has definitely encouraged and inspired us. I would take this opportunity to thank our principal, Dr. K.T. Thomas sir, for constantly guiding us. I would also like to thank our organizing team for their constant support. A special thank you goes to the college students, Ms. Devashri Divanji and Ms. Maria Khan, for the wonderful speech. Last but not the least, thank you to all the participants for attending today's program. Now I request all the participants to fill and submit the feedback form. Once again, thank you all and have a good and safe day. Thank you.